All right. Ian McCall, thanks for coming on. Here we go.
Good to see you after all these years.
I know. I appreciate it. You know, it's funny. We ran into each other, and I was like, oh, yeah, I know you through a lot of mutual friends and, you know, a little bit of my during my dark days. I think I probably met you, or maybe right shortly after that.
Yeah, those were wild times. We were just talking about that, how I don't ever want to go through that again.
Yeah.
You know, I was a young professional fighter hanging out with all these crazy Orange County people and Las Vegas people and club promoters, and being, you know, Chuck Liddell, and like riding one of his coattails to fame was insane.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that it's over.
Yeah. So you were the first flyweight event in the UFC. You're in the UFC from 2011 to 2017 is what I read, correct?
Yeah, they built me a division and then I blew it.
Yeah. Okay, so I kind of want to back up just even before that. You grew up, you were born where?
I was born right here at Hoag Hospital.
Hoag Hospital.
Yep.
Where all three of my kids were born too.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
And then you grew up, what, South County?
Yeah, I grew up in Laguna, Dana Point, San Clemente. Laguna Niguel is where I lived forever. Yeah, you know, the bubble, it's a special place to live. It's the California Riviera.
Yeah.
You know, we got in a lot of trouble, but you know, that was it's you know, my generation, our generation of the pills that hit us, and I was addicted by 14.
So what kind of family did you grow up in?
An amazing family. Like, you know, my parents they're back together after years, are amazing humans, very, very healthy. I was born premature, you know, probably wouldn't have survived in the wild, so I'm in an incubator for, sorry, I'll pick that up later. I was in the incubator for like a month or something, but my whole life was about like rebuilding.
Yeah.
And my parents, again, very healthy, very active. My dad's a waterman, world traveling surfer, you know, cannabis smuggler, amazing dude. And he ran the family business in downtown LA. We had a dealership in downtown and some bunch of property and stuff. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She had some jobs here and there, but like she was very strict, but we needed that. We were crazy kids. We were wild. Like I was smoking weed at 8.
Oh, wow.
I took LSD when I was 12.
How did that happen? Older brother? Or?
Older brother and just naughty friends. Fucking Ben Tarter. He was like the naughtiest kid. And his older brother, Moshe. I just remember like we had my friend's parents, obviously very affluent area, had a mansion to ourselves. The older cousin was babysitting, but she was upstairs with her boyfriend. And we were all little 12-year-olds, and we ate a couple hits of acid each and went back to the house and just ran around like Lord of the Flies, jumping in the pool and having
12
fun.
years old?
12 years old.
Oh, wow.
You know, way too early, but at the same time, at least I wasn't traumatized from life yet, you know, so it was just a fun time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's one thing about giving psychedelics to children who have, that are, you know, dealing with autism or they are traumatized. It works. It really does work. Biologically, they're the same. So there wasn't any negative effects. Like when they tell you growing up, oh, that'll make you crazy. You take acid this many times, you're insane. It's not how it works. Probably made me smarter. But anyways, then, you know, my parents got divorced, and when I was like 13, and it really threw me into a bad place.
Okay.
You know, my parents were split for a while, and like I said, they got, you know, they're back together, they got remarried, so everything's good. But they I mean, of course, my mom left, so I had some mommy issues. I had a lot of mommy issues growing up. But, you know, I went out and just looked for trouble at that age. Like, I was just constantly looking for shit to get into because I was angry.
So you said by 14 you were hooked on pills?
Hooked on pills. I wasn't taking them all the time, you know, but when I had them, when I could have access to them, I would take them. At 15, started going down to Mexico to get pills, steroids. Because like I never took steroids because I wanted to cut weight. I don't know, never resonated with me. But pills, yeah, I would like jingle like a maraca across the border, like drunk at 15, and then you just walk through. I never even got questioned.
So when did your like interest in fighting come?
When I was 4.
All right.
I asked my dad recently, I was like, why did I start fighting? And he goes, well, you were smaller than everybody, but always fighting. And like getting not into like pushing, and you were punching kids in the face. Like right, someone grabs you, you punch them.
Right away.
Right away. Or someone pushes me, they're getting punched. Even from like a really young age, I just had that instinct. So my dad put me into martial arts. A guy named Bill Egan was a Sifu, or a Kung Fu black belt master. Another amazing human and a bear of a man. And he, UFC was coming out soon after that. So we were going over some grappling stuff. We were going over some armbar sort of setups and Kimuras and whatnot. And that was my love. I performed on stage doing like, techniques, or I was doing weapons shows every year at school, at my private school. I went to a couple Catholic schools in the area, and one of them I didn't get. Well, I got kicked out of this one too, but I was doing like shows for Talent Day, or whatever was it? I can't think of the word. But you go in for a talent show, and there you go. And I would throw my brother around and spin swords around, and it was a good time. So I was always a performer. And then once I left private school, I started training. I got a black belt at 13, started doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling at 13, and then went into high school, made varsity freshman year, and it was off to the races. Every coach I've had has been an amazing human. Really, like my wrestling coach in high school, Reza Abedi. I still talk to him the other day. I mean, it's all the time. He's like a second dad to me. And he was a world champion at 17 years old with men from Iran, and then had to flee the country back then because of all the drama, and wasn't able to go to the Olympics because he didn't have a green card here. So he got kind of screwed in that. But all of his world-class friends would come in and kick the shit out of me in high school because I was beating up coaches. Yeah. I could beat up grown men by the time I was 15. Okay. And like train grown men, not just like frat guys at parties or dads who would get mad at parties. Like, right. I was always beating up some adult. Yeah. I never really looked for it, but my friends did. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you don't know how to fight, dude. And this old man's going to beat the shit out of you. So I would step in. Yeah. And then I would take, I would get some training. But, yeah, so then I was just, my dad's one of my best friends. I lived with him, but he was never home. He was working, so I was left to my own devices, as a youth, which is probably not the best place to be.
So in high school, you're doing pills, but you're also a high-level athlete, competing.
Yeah. Yep.
Winning championships.
I floundered at the top.
Okay.
Or like my big chances because of drugs. And then I went pro at 18. They wanted me to fight at 16, but I was like, I'm not ready for this. But 18, flew to Hawaii, fought a guy, a grown man who was like 28, who was a 3-time or 2-time boxing Navy champion. And
so at 18, you had your first pro fight
at the Blaisdell.
How does that happen? Like they wanted you to go pro.
I was a prodigy.
And
I was that good.
So who hooks all that up?
My coach, Chris Brennan, at the time, he hooked that up because I was winning tournaments.
Gotcha.
Like I was smoking people, and people knew who I was.
Gotcha.
And then I went out there and I had that fight, and that first fight got me ranked. Man, it was either top 15 or top. I think it was 14th in the world. Okay. At 18, and I was like, "This."
And that's full mixed martial arts.
Yeah, full mixed martial arts. It's called Shuto was the organization from Japan.
Okay.
And then it was a hobby, not a hobby. It was what I wanted it to be, but I had to have other income, so I was selling a lot of dope, and I started a few businesses here and there, which all failed because of my drug abuse, and then finally, my second coach, the coach that really made me a world champion, Colin Oyama. I started training there when I was 19. I had Chris Brennan and Jeremy Williams were my first two coaches. And when they split, Chris moved to Texas, Jeremy became my coach, and then Jeremy killed himself, which was rough because he just kicked me out of the gym like a day or two before because I was being a bad kid. And I didn't deserve to train there, to be honest. I was being shitty. Then I went to Collins and... Collins had so much influence all over the world with fighting. Colin Oyama has created so many champions, so many amazing fighters. And Jiva Santana was there as a, he's got 13 world titles in jiu-jitsu, so it's like I had a really stellar team of coaches and fighters.
And this is after your first fight?
This is after my first fight. I think I had my first 2 fights, or 2 or 3 fights with Chris and Jeremy. Yeah, and so I was at Collins by like 20, I guess you could say. Maybe I stopped by once or twice when I was 19. So started training there, and then you get these little offers, and he starts putting you out to people in Japan, people in Europe, people wherever there's fights locally, and because you have this influx of fighters from all over the world that go to Collins to battle it out. It's a meat grinder of a facility, but by far one of the best gyms on the planet. And then I just started to win, and started to win more, and started to win. And we got me in WEC being undefeated, and I put that guy in the hospital for a couple of days. Like, that was an amazing performance on my end. But then partying set in, and I started to fuck up. Lost my first fight, came back, won some fights.
What is that like? Like, I know you competed your whole life, but then you're all of a sudden pro. What's that feeling like? Like, leading up to the fight, getting in the ring, like, afterwards, like, is that where you felt the most alive, or is that just just something you do? Or
I've always liked risking my life growing up, jumping out of planes or driving fast or jumping off cliffs into the water or whatever. Walking out for a fight, let's say for a UFC fight, because obviously that's the biggest, or Japan is really cool too. Man, it's the greatest drug that I'm happy I'll never have again. Like, realistically,
explain that. You're the greatest drug you're happy you'll never have.
Yeah, because it's too addicting, and it made me a crazy person. Fame and money and all this stuff wasn't all that good for me. I just didn't the money, because I just money's not the problem. It was me. Yeah. It was the fame and the partying and constant events and my addiction to women, and to just addiction to just anything that make me feel good. And it was a wild time. I know I was showing up places and women were crying because I was there, like, because it's the marketing machine. That's not me. I'm not trying to have that. I don't know how to have that effect on people.
Yeah.
So I became a legitimate superstar. TMZ is calling. Who are you dating? I'm just constantly having a really good time with like celebrities and cool events, and like being everywhere I went. There was Ian's here, it was this whole thing. So like it was a false reality, but the drug of fighting itself is so pure. It's you have 20,000 people in an arena screaming because you're there. And they, like, Burt Watson used to get everybody out of the back. He used to be the guy that ran the show. Yeah, baby, Ian McCall, we're coming for you, baby. Get ready. And he's this all-black dude who is just so good at his fucking job. And he would just kick the door in. You'd have cameras behind him, like, "Are you ready?" And you're just fucking, let's go. And you get out in the hallway, and you're in the bowels of the building. You hear that fight going on, and music, and the knockouts, and the screams of the crowd. And you're just there, and it's so, so incredible. It is so exciting. And I was screaming. I was just like, I had to. You get in the character, and you're ready for war. Like, I'm not the only person that does this. It's an old thing that fighters do. From Ensign Inouye is a guy that I got it from. But you write letters to everybody you love before you go the night before. That you're gonna die. You're not coming back. I'm not here to live. I'm here to die on my shield. I'm here to come home on my shield. And so that's how you have to look at it. And you go out there and you give a show, and the crowd loves you. And the cameras are cool, I guess. They just, you don't really know what's going there. It's just a little box, but it's the bodies. Yeah. It's like the energy behind it. So it's and that's forever trapped in you if you know how to tap into it. And I feel like I have. It's an energetic pull for other people to be like, you're interesting. Why? What? Who are you? What are you?
Right.
You look. So yeah, I found that recently more and more. That's just people just are interested in what I have to say for whatever weird reason. I don't shut the fuck up. Maybe that's it.
No, you're good. You're good at explaining things. That's something like for a guy like me. I've never felt that. We'll never feel that, but to like get a little window into that.
It's a weird feeling.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something you ask for. It's just this manifestation of and if you're vibrating properly, if you're headed in the right direction, you know, like morally, and you have like, you know, whatever that lines up for you. For me, it was, you know, paying back my karmic debt, you know, getting back in touch with God and being sober and being like a good version of myself. Then yeah, it's much more, you know, I think you radiate better. Yeah, people just see you and like, you're healthy. Like, what do you do?
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted your. You're kind of chronological. Okay, so you start fighting in the. WBC?
Well, I started fighting in Shuto, in Warriors Quest, and then it bounced around to a few organizations. By my 6th fight, I was in the WEC. And then I won the first one, lost the second one, had to go outside, fought in a different organization, went back to the WEC, and then I ended up in rehab. Maybe that's when I ended up in rehab. I don't know. There was a break, and I ended up in rehab at some point.
How'd you get to rehab? Intervention, or you decided to?
No, I was going to go to prison.
Okay.
And so I checked myself into rehab. My lawyer, this guy's shady. I don't think he's a lawyer anymore. But he goes, dude, check yourself into rehab right now. So I went in and checked myself into Nancy Clark here in Costa Mesa, and it was not easy. But it's really not that hard if you just have some wherewithal in yourself to just go, okay, can't do drugs. I'm stuck here. I don't want to go back to.
I know Nancy real well.
Yeah,
she's
she's not the nicest.
Tough,
but she's worked in addiction for how many decades?
A lot, like
I'm sure
40.
So
40 years.
Of course she's salty.
Yeah.
But very successful. One of the most successful and powerful things you can do is go there. So that's where I went there. Sailed through it. Didn't have any mess ups or anything. Got out, and you know was good for a bit. And when I was in rehab, all I could do was sneak. They didn't want me to coach or anything or work at a gym, so they would. I would have to sneak off during my lunch break and train, and had a boxing coach, and just was moving around learning. Like, you know, I was already so good at grappling and everything. I really wanted to fine tune my hands, so I worked with this guy Jimmy Jackson for a while, and then I was working also with my main coach Colin. And man, when some fighters came down for a seminar down here at Mark Munoz's gym. It was Uriah Faber when he had that brand. I forgot what it was called. Joseph Benavidez. Like, I put on a show that day. I took down an Olympian wrestling, and everyone was like, "Whoa!" You know, I gave it to Joe really well in that match in front of everybody. And Joe and Uriah pulled me aside and they're like, "Hey man, where have you been?" Like, holy shit, this is the guy we've heard of. Like, why aren't you fighting? I was like, well, I just got to rehab. I don't think I'm ever gonna fight again. I'm just trying to figure out my life, man. I don't know. Like, you hiring? And they were like, dude, you need to fight. So I go to my coach's gym, and Colin goes, "You need money, right?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "All right, well, fight Jeff. You know, Bao just fought him and beat him in 3.5 minutes. So I think you can do it in 2.5. And nothing against Jeff. Jeff's a stud, but I'm just better."
What's Jeff?
Will Willingham.
Okay.
From Huntington Beach.
Okay.
And I went out there and I did that exact thing. And that's when the moniker Uncle Creepy came out, because I never wanted that nickname. I still have to deal with repercussions of the nickname today. Like, people pushing me as CEO of a company. Like, why is this? Why is your nickname Uncle Creepy? We don't like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I work for myself. But I fought Jeff, and then I went and got a tattoo, the one on my chest, and used that as an excuse to get high. And I took Oxycontin and Xanax, and who the fuck knows what else I took, and I died. I was on the operating table for 24 hours.
That's when you OD'd?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't know I was on the hospital table for 24 hours, or the ER bed. Until my brother, we took some mushrooms, and we're talking, and he's like, yeah, he told me the story, and I was like, oh, fuck, I love you, I'm sorry. Sorry I put you through that. But, so I ended up in the hospital for 7 days. And while I'm in there, my agent calls and he goes, "Hey man, where are you? You're not at the gym. Where, just checking in." I was like, "Yeah," because my fight was only a couple minutes. I was fine. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I overdosed in the hospital. He's like, well, fuck, should I come see you? And I was like, no, don't. Let me just be here by myself for a bit. I'm really not stoked right now. Because I was good and clean before that. He goes, all right, well, we have some business to talk about. They're trying to find out who the best 125er is in the world. And at Tachi Palace Casino in Central California, in Lemoore, which is hallowed ground, where WEC used to be, the who's who have walked through those doors and fought. And I'd been up there a dozen times at least to watch fights. And they're trying to figure out who's best. The number one guy is there. His name is Formiga, Jussier Formiga, which means the ant. And they want you to fight him. They're trying to make a name off you. I was like, all right, well, let's fucking go. So I had to drop down to 125, but that wasn't hard. And, well, it was hard, but it was where I naturally belonged. So yeah, I signed to fight the best guy in the world from a hospital bed after an overdose. And then like 3 months later, I went up and I beat the shit out of him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you OD'd, signed to fight from the hospital bed.
The doctor, he talked to me when I was leaving. He goes, you know what? Running my vital signs. He's like, I can't. You're weird. And I was like, what? He goes, I brought you back to life a week ago, and now you're officially in better shape than I've ever seen anyone in my entire life. My resting heart rate was like 38.
Yeah.
The doctors still trip out. I'm like, we're going to have to paddle you. And I'm like, what? I was in the hospital not that long ago with E. coli. And they were like, we might have to paddle you. And I was like, why? They go, because your heart rate's 38. And I was like, whoa, that's natural. That's just because I'm a freaky athlete. They're like, but that's really low for an athlete. I was like, you don't understand what kind of athlete I am.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't mean to brag, but like, it's just, please get those fucking things away from me. Oh my God. So that's one thing. I leaned on that too much in my whole life. Where I was like, oh, I'm gifted. I'm better than everybody else in this regard, so I don't have to work as hard. I did work hard, but I slacked off a lot. Yeah. So I go up and I beat him, and I stay sober for a while. I get back together. I go on a run, and UFC calls me and goes, "If you keep doing this, we're gonna build you a division. We're gonna make you a fucking star." And I was like, "Sign me up. Let's go. I'm not stopping." And I was making good money with the Tachi Palace. They were actually paying me pretty decently back then, but it still wasn't enough. And I wanted to be in the UFC. That was the dream of mine. To be. I knew I was the best in the world. So, got back together with my ex. She got pregnant. We were planning on getting married. One of my favorite pictures in my life is when I won that world title. Because I was putting on a show with all these people. Like I was beating the bark off everybody, and people were. Sherdog magazine had me ranked above John Jones as pound for pound the best fighter in the world.
Oh wow!
Yeah, someone reminded me of that the other day, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." It's a weird concept, but the picture of me with the belt on and my ex-wife's pregnant, about to pop, and just like a little feather in her hair, and just looked beautiful, And I was just like, man, we left there the next day, and as we were driving home back to LA or back to Orange County, we got married. It was it was a really good time in my life. And then, the UFC calls, we're building you a division, having a 4-man tournament, like it's going to be the whole thing. And then we get to Australia. I have the biggest hype train. So much support, article of the year for, for the whole sport. I'm on every TV sort of outlet. I mean, just like really pushing me hard. And we go out there and I put on the best performance of my life, and I got screwed in the judges. And first they called it a loss, then they called it a draw, and it had just thrown me into a very weird space, and I started doing Octagon with my ex-wife again, like that night I think it was. So that wasn't good. And even though I knew we were going to fight again in a few months, I obviously didn't think of the repercussions. But we came in for that second fight, and he beat me fair and square. I cut 18.8 pounds in the last 20 hours, highly inappropriate. I was cutting on a 125. That's a lot of weight to cut.
Yeah.
And then I put on a shitty performance, and he went on to be the greatest of all time. And my life, just floundered from there on out as far as, and then I got back on heroin and fentanyl at one point. And my career after that was a joke. I put on 2 good performances. One in Brazil, where I beat the hell out of this guy, and then another one where I went to Ireland, went to Dublin, and I fought an Englishman, Brad Pickett. I know they hate the English over there for good reason, and I played it up because my name is Irish, and I'm not Irish, but it's a name by marriage, and played it up, and I just hammered him for the whole time, and I started to win back the favor of everybody knowing, because this is the guy that beat Mighty Mouse, so it was like I'm one step away, and then I started again to do too much partying, too many women, too many drugs, too many late nights where I should have been training. Yeah.
When did you know the fighting stuff was kind of over professionally?
Dimethyltryptamine. I was on my couch, and my brother has been extracting DMT for over 15 years. And I sat down, and it was like, all right, Peter Pan, Count Chocula, it's time to grow up. This is done. This is going to kill you. You need to get off the drugs, and you need to sober up or die. You have 2 options. That's where you're headed next. And when fentanyl is not getting you high enough, you're doing like more than one line. I was like, I don't want to shoot this up. I never shot up any drugs. But man, I had 2 more fights in Japan, and I was snorting Oxycontin before I walked out.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I would snort a line. They go, all right, you got 5 minutes. I'm like, I'll grab my bag, go in the bathroom, snort something, and then go out there. And had horrible performances. Like the first one, I ran into the ropes and cut my head to the skull. So that was done quick. And then the last fight, I got knocked out in front of 40,000 people on my 34th birthday in Fukuoka, Japan, which was not a bad way to go out.
That was your last fight?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, I knew it was over. I walked in the back. I looked at my coaches and I was like, that's never happened before. We're done, right? Like, we're done. So, and then I went on the exhaustive search of how to not die and how to heal myself.
So you fighting in sobriety and recovery?
They all went hand to hand.
All at the same time?
Yeah. Okay. What I do now for nonprofit and for profit, all my research, why I fly around the world and educate, and I speak on all the big stages. It's cool to be this person now, because everyone's like, what do you do? There's a UFC fighter class action lawsuit going on. They're giving us giving us $375 million, and obviously that's split between a lot of people. So I'm getting enough money. It would be great if I had more, but whatever, it's free. And now I get to talk to all these fighters in the WhatsApp chat, and to show them that I'm CEO of a nonprofit that does the first traumatic brain injury research using athletes as our case studies, blows them the fuck away. Yeah. Like all really high level fighters and famous people, where we're all one and the same. We're all, no one thinks we're that cool, Yeah. So to have all these greats reaching out to me, and like, hey, I want to help, or hey, I'm fucked up, I'm having seizures, or whatever it is. My life's work is coming to fruition. We have our first study happening in 2 weeks in Oregon with mushrooms.
That's awesome. I want to get way more into that, but I want to kind of rewind to your journey.
Okay, so the journey, sobriety.
So sobriety, and then you discovering this path that got you into all this stuff, and realizing, hey, maybe part of this is from concussions and brain injury. How did that all come about?
So fighting was just me acting out my childhood traumas,
right,
on stage for everyone to see. This is my life's work, what I do now. Okay. I got sober. Psychedelics gave me the idea to get sober. Mushrooms helped along the way to heal my brain, to fast track the healing. But for the only way that I could get off of peptides after trying to get off of opiates for 20 years was peptides. And my friends own Pyxis Biologics, which is one of the best labs in the world. And we were my really close friends. They saved my life. They gave me a crazy cocktail of peptides. Curcumin, BPC and TB500, NAD and BDNF. I modulated my testosterone. I took something for my growth hormone. I got all these things into my body in high doses. So I didn't have any withdrawal. I think I took one Suboxone over like a few days, and that's it. And I got off of fucking opiates that easy. I didn't have any. I'm sure my body hurt from sticking needles in myself all the time, but whatever. It was worth it. And it healed my receptors. It wasn't like, oh, it got me sober and then I was still addicted. Like, no, I had no withdrawal. I had no cravings, really. And the amount of psychedelics I was taking was inappropriate, but it helped me unpack everything. You know, I just got to eat 10 grams of mushrooms and lay in bed with my girlfriend and talk and like just go over and learn all these things. And I was finally able to learn and focus on something other than the physical act of fighting or studying fighting. So I just educated myself on all the science, and I was physically healed. And then I realized, oh, I'm spiritually bankrupt and I'm emotionally still fucked up. So I went on a path of that. I mean, studying religions and ancient civilizations to all the stoicism and, you know, philosophy of Rumi and a lot of religious texts. And then psychology, you know, people like Gabor Mate and addiction, becoming a certified coach myself, and packaging it all together as someone who is very well versed in, I don't know many people that are as well versed as I am in psychedelics, in this field in general. And I'm not an expert in any, and I guess I'm an expert in the psychedelics and sports, you know, and how it works with the body. But like my scientific understanding has hit a wall because now doctors and scientists all work for me, work with me, you know, help me build my brands. And so they talk and I'm like, duh. I'm like, okay, I feel like a monkey again. So I don't want to go back to school because I don't have time, and I don't fit well in the school model. But you know, I get to travel around and I get to educate and do these studies and help my friends like Cain Velasquez. I don't know if you know much about Cain, but his whole story, as of recent, the last couple of years with everything happened with his kid, he's going to be one of our study participants.
Yeah.
And we just shot a TV show with him, or an episode of a travel show we do about fighting. And to see him talk about being healed and forgiving the person who did this, and how if he needs to heal first before his family can heal. And we're starting a church on his property. He's got a 380-acre winery up north where he serves 5-MeO-DMT, or the toad poison.
Yeah.
And very back of his property, you go under this beautiful redwood grove, because it's in Gilroy, like NorCal. And just to see a dear friend of mine who, you know, he gets out of jail, he comes to me and says, brother, I need to heal. So I was like, well, okay, well, let's, you know, I got with my mentor who used to ran SEAL Team 6 for 20 years, and we had a ceremony for him, you know, and we did some amazing work with Cain. And now to see him like really being like the leader, and he's going to be the leader of this church, he's going to be the face of it, is really, really cool. You know, it's because I don't know a fighter who doesn't have issues.
Yeah.
I don't know an athlete who doesn't have issues in some way, shape, or form. You know, and they might be like, I'm fine, bro. And then you start to talk to them and talk to their wife, and you're like, oh, God damn it. I knew it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's some of the highest functioning, most winningest people in sports are some of my friends, and they come and sit on my couch, and I get to talk to them about their problems. Yeah. And I shouldn't laugh about it, but it's like we're all fucked. You know, and I've done a lot of healing. I have. Obviously, I still have issues, you know, so it's like being able to work and be vocal about it and use them as an example, because obviously my issues don't pull me into these crazy actions anymore, but they're still there.
What do you think the common denominator is for really high-level athletes
trauma.
And high-level people? And do you think that trauma, like you talked about,
it's a fire under your butt.
You're fighting because you're acting out your childhood trauma.
Yeah, right? What made you do this in the first place? So trauma only comes in a few flavors. You've got who left you, who touched you, who hurt you, you know, and we all have at least one of them.
Sure.
I'm lucky I only have one, you know. But physically, I guess, I don't know, I didn't really get abused as a kid. My older brother was a dick, but I was fine. It's trauma that drives us to do this. You want to be a world champion at something, you know how hard that is? Mm-hmm. Like, it's crazy. And then from there, you peel back these layers and you just try and figure out, like, like, you're not special. We all have these traumas. And for me, the buzzword is TBI or CTE. This science will affect all the neurological disorders and probably even affect like showing the inflammation drop with cancers and all. Like it's going to help a lot of people. But once we get their attention and we say, oh, my favorite athlete had all these TBI issues and now they're healed. I want to listen to this. They start talking and they talk about those issues. Those take 30 seconds to go over.
Yeah.
Then you have a whole bunch of time to talk about how they healed because of X, Y, or Z. And then that person's like, oh my God, you got touched too?
Yeah. Or
you saw someone die or whatever, your mom left you? Like that resonates with me even more. And then they invest some time into looking into it. I call it the pollination effect, where no one wants to listen to doctors or scientists anymore, but they will listen to their favorite athlete or a veteran or someone who's been through some serious shit. And we model our whole nonprofit after Heroic Hearts Project, which is the 501c3 for veterans in psychedelics. They're all my coaches, so I work really intimately with those guys. But we go through and you hear the story, and then the pollination. So I'm the queen bee; they're the worker bees. They go out and pollinate all the ears and minds of people that listen to them, because they don't want to listen to doctors or scientists anymore.
No,
it's become enemy number one because they lied to us and they vaccinated us and they did all these. They pressure you into this thing with their God complex. Like the pharmaceutical model is, and there's some amazing doctors out there. But let me just rant about this.
Go ahead, because you and I are on the same page there. I have the same experience.
You have a falsified petroleum model of schooling, of books, of was it the Rockefellers that started all this? It's all false from the beginning, and it pushes out what really works. And then you have these people who are very smart and come from usually wealthy families. Most doctors have money, so they have this. They're taught to have a God complex, and then they're pushing medicines that are petroleum based. So this whole industries or multiple industries can make money that were all owned by one family or whatever, that sort of conspiracy side of it. And so that's all false. And these drugs have a really negative effect on us. And it's like, so I've chosen to just opt out of the whole thing, and I don't have I have doctors I work with, but they're my friends. But I took healing onto myself because I got really good at it. My daughter got sick when she was 2.5, and I saw them putting her on methotrexate, a chemotherapy drug for rheumatoid arthritis. I was like, no, we're doing painkillers and anti-inflammatories. I was like, I'm doing this natural. So we fixed her, and that's where my knowledge went from selfishly competing, like human performance, to like cheat without cheating. I like breaking rules, but not in my career. I don't want to, lose my job. But how can I have a performative benefit? And that performative benefit turned into how do I heal my kid, and that turned into how do I heal myself, and now I get to tell people about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's interesting you say trauma. I mean, that's every addict and alcoholic's, root.
That's the driver. Find out. Exactly.
But you guys, at a high level, like I've always just been fascinated as what makes Michael Jordan, and what makes
what happened?
Like, what is it like that's almost like unrelenting drive to compete.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
You have to be a monster.
It was interesting to say yours was acting out your childhood trauma, because that must have had a major effect on you. And not only were you gifted and had some ability, but it made you climb pretty high.
It did. And
even though drugs and alcohol were in the way, you had to still be pushing like crazy to get there.
Yes. And I don't come from an environment that breeds fighters. My great whatever grandfather was president of the United States of America. Franklin Pierce. Okay. The guy that started the Civil War for slavery is my grandpa.
Wow.
And as a half-breed kid, my dad married a Mexican. I like to say he married the help. My mom hates it when I say that. Because, racism is kind of funny sometimes if you say it yourself.
Sure.
My family has, we have means, affluent, and that doesn't usually breed top-tier fighters. But it did with myself and my best friend and I, Shane Del Rosario, rest in peace. It gets dark, but he died in my arms right here at our old house. But, you know, another guy who partied himself to death, you know, because of fighting. Because I had Jeremy kill himself. He was taking pills. My coach, you know, then Justin Levins, who killed his wife, a dear friend of mine, and then killed himself. I was the first one on the scene. You know, I've had a lot of gnarly trauma in my life after my beautiful childhood. Mm-hmm. You know, like, childhood was free and clear of trauma, really. Mm-hmm. But then once I started to go through life, it was just trauma after trauma after trauma. And, you know, with the TBIs, this is the issue. The TBI will exacerbate all the addictions. It'll exacerbate confusion, you know, the slurred speech, the things that make you kind of embarrassed. You know, the forgetfulness is just so bad sometimes. And then you revert into alcohol. Alcohol is such like a savior into it. I was never much of a drinker. Mine was more drugs, but still, whatever the flavor it is that you need, like heroin produces the same molecules in the body that a mother's hug does. So that obviously resonates with me. Yeah. So yeah, you know, we're trying to really fight off so many demons all at once with these people, because they're strong, you know, and we're getting there. We've got a really good system built out of coaches and mentors and access to things that people need, because most fighters are broke. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. So you use psychedelics and peptides to get you sober, and then what was your journey like to just find out the science behind this, the dosage, the where to
Practice.
go, what to do? And was it just self-experimentation? Then
yes, it has to be that way for everybody. You got to figure out the dose works for you. But for me, I was also dosing out athletes, you know, because I couldn't do this ever again. But I would be on a bag or working out, and I was like, this is amazing. Or I would do jiu-jitsu. That's really one of the only times that I dose up is when I go roll it to Nori. Okay. Because I'm in there, I'm 40, and these are 20-year-old world champions, like the Rotolo twins and whatnot. So I'll take, you know, a microdose. But outside of that, I don't even really microdose much. I'm trying to be on like a very, you know, sober, good path, because I got so much stuff going on. But I just started reading, because you can't go to school for psychedelic. Well, you can now. They have some sort of study stuff. Back then in 2018, 2017, you couldn't go to school for this. And I've always had very smart friends, scientists and such. So I actually, you know, started dating a scientist, and she, UCLA professor, and just taught me so much about it. Taught me the word harm prevention, what an integration coach means, all these things that I was just being crazy. I was just being the crazy old me. Mm-hmm. I needed to get in touch with, number one, how to treat a woman. She's a little older, so she was very motherly. Like, this is how you treat a woman. Don't be an idiot. And she also I wielded her like a sword in business, because I got in front of the UFC in 2018 with a mushroom study. Like, that's how much I read. That
was right after your career, like a year after. Okay.
I could finally, 2019, I could finally study for once in my life. And I'm on the spectrum, and more farther down the spectrum than most people, obviously high functioning. But with psychedelics in my brain, go read the book Autism on Acid. It'll show how well this works. I just retained so much information. Yeah, Aaron Paul Orsini wrote the book. He's written 4 books, and he's was the face for a while. I think he's kind of stepped out of the spotlight. But for autism and psychedelics, I read everything, day after day after day after day after day after day. Just white papers on articles and so on. I was already trying to build a post-fight concussion serum for the UFC. They asked me to do this. Jeff Nowitzki. Obviously, they know my brain. And we had a CBD company back in the day where we were going to make this formulation. That fell through. I brought up psychedelics, and Jeff was like, "You're crazy." And he's like, and I just bugged him. I'm like, dating a scientist. I'm friends. I'm an advocate for all these organizations. He goes, "Okay, you know what I need. Give me a major university and the FDA." And I was like, I just got that on a call before this, because I know what you're going to ask for. Johns Hopkins, the FDA are ready. They sat down and fumbled. It's too soon. We can't do this. So I went back to the drawing board, but it was cool, because, you know, people were talking about it. Dana got me in Forbes talking about it, you know, so that was nice. And just the fact that I was the first person Well, the reason why they talked to me is because I planted a scientist in front of them and pushed the on button, and she talked about it. But I knew I was on to something, you know, so kept working. I ended up on HBO, actually, with Dean Lister, a fighter, who was severely damaged at the time, was in a sling for his shoulder, addicted to alcohol. We did a mushroom ceremony on my favorite TV show of all time, Real Sports. And I got to talk to David Scott 6 hours after eating 5 grams of mushrooms. Had a little bit of a meltdown. But it was incredible, you know. So I get on Forbes, I get on HBO, I'm now speaking at conferences. I end up on the cover of LA Weekly, which is 16 million copies with my face on it. And they used the one word I asked them not to use. I said, don't say, call me a shaman. Not a shaman. Fight shaman was the title, you dick. But, you know, I've become friends and peers with all the people, the biggest, the smartest people in the space. Like the people that from the original movement with Leary. My friend Robert Forte wrote books with Leary and Wasson and Ruck. Dr. Fadiman, like I'm going to see him this weekend. He's the godfather of microdosing. And then you've got people of the new age, you know, that people don't really know their names. But so, you know, I've really solidified myself in this because people, they trust me. Right. Like back to that energetic thing, like they all pull me aside, either in person or on FaceTime, like, what are your intentions with this industry? You're crazy. It's obvious. But like, it sounds good. So I talk them off the ledge and just say, I'm just here to help, you know?
So in my space, in the mental health space, right, the one that is a proven treatment modality is the ketamine-assisted treatment. Is that something you're a believer in, participate in?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
So ketamine is, I'm batting 1,000 wins to losses with people that wanted to kill themselves that are still alive today. And I have used street ketamine. Obviously, like any source, I'm going to get it from his lab tested, you know, purity and all that sort of stuff. But whether it's a veteran, a young female athlete, a damaged male athlete, whatever it is, I've had people, I've gone to them or they come to me, and I'm like, you trust me? Yes. Okay, we'll snort this. You know, and now we're working like we can make a nasal spray at home, sort of thing. So it's not as it seems so street level, but the level of healing, and then obviously now I've done everything in my power to legitimize myself. So working with ketamine clinics, I was working with Better You Ketamine back in the pandemic, helped build out their integration handbook for their clinicians and practitioners, or, therapists. Funny that I help write that sort of stuff. But then I was working with a retreat center in Miami. So I love ketamine. Ketamine's an amazing molecule. I just love ketamine too much, so I don't do ketamine.
Right.
It's damaged my body. I was addicted to it. Being an addict and working for a ketamine company with free ketamine wasn't the best idea for me.
So for your addiction, it's not good. And for a lot of people in addiction, it's probably not the best road.
I would be careful. And don't be doing. You can go get therapy with a doctor in a clinic. That's great. I just fear people go, oh, my neighbor sells ketamine.
Self-medicating.
Starting to self-medicate because it's. Did you ever see the first Harry Potter?
Yeah.
The mirror of Erised. Where you look into this mirror and he's like, Harry, like men will waste their lives looking into this mirror because it's going to give you everything you want in your life.
Yeah.
And it's going to show you all the cool ideas and things you want and love and whatever it is, but it's not real.
Right.
And I just went down to Ibogaine a few months ago to really nip this in the bud because, again, not controlling my life, but it's just like there, and I'm always around ketamine. So it's like I tried my best to get away from it.
All right, so subject change. Ibogaine.
Ibogaine, yes.
So tell people what that's about that don't know about Ibogaine, and it's more of like a ceremony. Is that correct? Where you do that? I mean, what does that look like?
You end up in a hospital bed very safely. They need you there for monitoring. But Ibogaine is the most tested and verified thing in psychedelics. It's the rock star right now. Governor Perry from Texas. I'm working with a senator out of South Dakota. RFK's team, I'm like 1 degree of separation, so I'm working on getting more involved because I have a new PR agent actually in the Ibogaine space. So Beyond is the place that I went in Mexico. Shout out to Beyond and Tom and the whole crew. You guys are amazing. You go down. You have a few days to get ready for prep for the flood dose, and it's a root from Africa. Mm-hmm. And this is the alkaloid. This isn't the full spectrum thing. This is ibogaine. Iboga is the plant itself, but it's the strongest, longest lasting psychedelic there is. I mean, it's wild. And I saw people have incredible experiences on this. I had a horrible experience, but shocker, I've been through some dark stuff. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the men every veteran I know that's been down there and fucking tough guy is like, dude, that was horrible. Mm-hmm. It's just not fun. I just saw death and dying things
It's not fun, but was it a positive experience?
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay. Got it. So
I had just gotten out of the jungle doing ayahuasca a few months before, and I had this opportunity. So I was like, I need to go heal my brain, even if I don't get anything emotional out of it. It actually resets your receptors for opioids or anything like that within 48 hours, completely. Mm-hmm. Alcohol, addiction, people coming off of methadone and Xanax and all the sorts of stuff. It is magical because you're with these people for 10 days, mm-hmm. and you see the transformation in them. You see how sick they are detoxing, because it's a rehab setting. You're not allowed to leave the premises, but there's drug testing, I think, every day or every other day. They go through your bags and do all that sort of stuff. And been to rehab twice, so I resonate with this. This whole process is not my favorite, but I can go through it, especially not being high, not being detoxed during the day. So the flood dose is 12 hours tripping, and the first 6 hours is this movie reel. You're in a hospital bed, very comfortable hospital bed with a weighted blanket and all the things that make you feel safe, beautiful music. But most psychedelics are very visual, very, mm-hmm. very beautiful. This is a dark screen because you have an eye shade on and you're in the dark. And it's this dark movie screen of just things you want to talk about or want to go over in your brain. And the first vision I had was a hippopotamus with a Trump wig with bat wings. And it floated up and then melted away. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess this is where we're going. And then it was just like faces coming up and melting away and dying and all this like dark stuff. And I just sat there and kind of smirked through it. And I was like, okay, that's weird. That's an even weirder one. It was just constant, just like, okay, ibogaine, show me what is the monster under my bed. That's how I looked at it. I still had some monster under my bed. I was like, there's no way I'm weak enough to where my mommy left me and that threw me off for the rest of my life. Well, I figured out that I'm being born premature. If you look into Stanislav Grof's work about the traumatic birthing process and all this sort of chemicals you're supposed to produce after, mm-hmm. with the mother and all the things. My coach Lindsay Briner, who's a neuroscientist out of the Bay Area, helped me realize all this stuff. And I always gave myself the excuse of, well, there's got to be something else wrong with me because that couldn't be it. I'm not that weak. And I thought there was a monster under the bed. I went mm-hmm. to a bunch of private schools. Maybe someone touched me. I don't know. Yeah. Let's unlock it. Let's figure it out. And ibogaine was like, no. You get the message, you hang up the phone. Alan Watts? Mm-hmm. So that was, one of his biggest messages. If you get the phone or you get the message, hang up the phone. And I finally was like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm good. I don't need to be afraid of anything or have this excuse. Now I can look at myself and go, no. Just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean you need to. Mm-hmm. You can go home. You got to work out in the morning. And the reset of memory, linguistic skills. I still stutter a bit, but that's whatever. It's fine. Perception things, and just overall healthy feeling. Like I got my brain tested less than a month after.
TMS.
No. TMS made me almost kill myself, actually. Yeah. I did not have a good time doing that. But I heard amazing results in people. I'd like to retry it when I'm not on Oxycontin. That might help. And Xanax and all that shit. Yeah. But with the ibogaine, my friend Cynthia out of Peru ran some sort of diagnostic thing on my brain. And she's like, you've had a TBI? It's like, I got punched in the head from 4 years old to 34. I put myself in a coma snowboarding, and I died of a drug overdose at 27. You know, like, my brain should be mush. And the fact that I think I proved a theory right by saying that you can fix dead matter. Because Megan Blaya is a researcher out of University of Miami. I brought them to the table with UFC as well a few years later. And they custom made a study for the UFC, finally. The Johns Hopkins wouldn't do that. And Jeff Nowitzki called me and goes, "This is the greatest thing you've ever done, Ian." And then they blew it. They dropped the ball. And now the UFC can't work with me because of their public. But anyways, Megan Blaya told me, you know, you look at your brain as a circle. There's a black fist in the middle. That's the brain damage. That's black. And then it'll go into gray and then into white. The white is the healthy part. She goes, "We think we can heal the gray." And I was like, okay, well, you guys have told me a lot of stuff. And I'm usually pretty right about this. So I think that I've gone past the limit of the gray, and we're healing black matter. We're healing dead tissue in the brain. Or obviously not healing the dead, pushing out dead and having new cells being made or something.
Rewiring. Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really proliferation of cells in the brain. It's like we thought that was impossible.
Yeah. Okay, so your nonprofit's Athletes Journey Home.
Yes.
And I saw that you're having something coming up.
Yes.
Tell me about Athletes Journey Home, what's going on there, what that's for, what that's about.
So I need an army of people talking about this. Selfishly, it starts with my best friends who are all, you know, jacked up. But I've got a handful of people who are fighting right now or doing any sport, surfing even, race car driving, that want to put my logo on their shorts or on their car or on their board, and to talk about, oh, why are you doing this? You know, why are you trying to be a pro surfer or a pro fighter? Oh, well, I'm not fighting for me anymore. I'm fighting for this organization because I'm, you know, somewhere in my career, and I see this happening where I'm at the tail end of my career, and I now have to give back to a sport that I've you know, been in love with for so long, been a professional for so long, and we're getting huge results. You know, I was just at South by Southwest, and when Bert Kreischer found out, he called me over, had his assistant come find me. You know, we're in the gifting suite giving away a bunch of mushroom products. But Bert wants to talk to you. So I go over there, and they rented out this whole building, this whole house for an installation for their vodka company. And Bert and I are talking. He's like, "This is so cool you're doing this. I'm a big fan." He's the nicest person in the world. And what do you do now? And I told him, and he was like, "Oh my God, I have to have you on my show. I got to talk to Rogan for you. Got to do this, got to do that." And I was like, "Well, we'll get there. You know, just let's go on your show first." And just started talking to him about TBI. You know, because he's an athlete. Apparently, Bert's like a super athlete. But I've got all these people, you know, people like Cain Velasquez coming on the trip, Mark the Shark Irwin, bare knuckle boxing world champion, Giorgio Gomez from the Colombian Olympic surf team, Mac Danzig from old school UFC, I think the first show or one of the seasons of Ultimate Fighter. I've got a bunch of really, really cool athletes that are ready to do this study, and we're going to go. The idea is, I've been told I have a panel at MAPS, which is the biggest organization in psychedelics, and for them to give me a booth and to speak on a panel or to orchestrate a panel, they wanted me to give a talk, and I was like,
right.
I talk too much. I don't want to talk for an hour on stage. And I'm not trying to be famous like most of these people in here, because they've never had a touch of it. And it's a drug. It is. Like, I've had researchers tell me, like, "Oh my God, talking in front of camera, like, I feel so cool right now." I'm like, "Keep going. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Just don't turn into a dick." And and so I'm going to bring up study participants. I'm going to bring up my psychopharmacologist, or one of my founding members, Nige from the UK. Bring out my CMO, you know, and have a talk about the data that we're collecting in September for ayahuasca, because ayahuasca is going to cost me 205 people, $15,000 basically out the door per person. That's with ayahuasca, with flights, with all the testing. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, and of course, fans, people who just want to give $10, whatever helps. Yeah. I pay for everything.
How can people do that?
Go to athletesjourneyhome.com, scroll down to about 2/3 down the page, click it, or follow me on social media. I post links as well. And we're going to really start to get the message out there, because if I could get some venture capital firm to give me $5 million, that would be great. Or the government. I know they're cutting a lot of subsidies, but I'm this close with our RFK. I'm this close to working with tons of senators and other politicians, doctors, universities. Our IRB study went through University of Lima, Melbourne, both of those in Australia, and then but Lima, like, we were in a meeting on Zoom with all these scientists, and the head guy there, like, we're trying to run our studies through these universities, and he just goes, like, he goes, would you run it through Lima? And I was like, whoa. I go, we haven't run it through you? He goes, no. I look at my team. I was like, this is where ayahuasca came from. Where you work at the Ayahuasca Foundation. And he's like, I'll give you whatever you want.
Yeah.
So it's going through ethics, and we've got a multi-site, multi-medicine study that we can do. So then we can even do mushrooms. We could do LSD, ibogaine, whatever it is. We can study it. So that opens me up to some serious things, I don't know how that works.
So are there first world countries where psychedelics, besides ketamine, because ketamine's accepted in our medical community?
Yeah, and I'll study ketamine too.
Are there any other countries that this is part of their medical procedures, as part of their proven modalities yet that you know of?
Ayahuasca, Brazil was first.
Okay.
And they've got a lot of stuff going on down there. The UK is I don't want to say far behind, but they're pretty far behind. Even though they have Beckley Foundation through Amanda Fielding, the Baroness Amanda Fielding, they're still stuck in the mud over there. I guess it would probably be us and Brazil.
So the United States is really on the forefront of this. I like 2 years
Mexico
ago.
Too.
2 years ago, I was at a conference for substance use disorder and mental health.
Yeah.
And they had a whole half day on psychedelics, and this is a pretty prominent conference that happens every year in Arizona. So it's being talked about.
It's the future.
It is the future.
And it leads people to less addiction, or no addiction at all, potentially, if you do it the right way. Some people have to go back to the well, of course, and some people just enjoy it so much that they want to go back to the well with humans. Sometimes it's too much. Yeah. I did 15 ceremonies this year. I'm like, why? Why? I have this whole thing coming up of, I've got to take fighters to Colombia. I have to take fighters to Peru. I have to take people to St. Vincent to study DMTX. I have to do this study of mushrooms in a couple of weeks. Like, all these different ceremonies that I'll be participating in and ingesting medicine. And I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to, like, and I don't have a choice. Realistically, if you sit in an ayahuasca circle, you drink ayahuasca. But I just have to reframe, or I have been on task trying to figure out how to reframe my mindset on it, because, like, I'm not here to heal. I'm here to help the other ones heal. I'm now the coach or the sage or whatever. I'm the guy talking about how this all works within their body and the integration of it. So, but most people, I'm like, you should do ayahuasca like once a year. That's if you can afford it. Like, that's the thing. It's like,
what does something like that cost?
Couple grand. Here in the U.S., you can probably get it for like $1,500. But it depends on who's serving it. Like, I'm a Westerner who serves medicine, but I only serve for Team 6 guys or Special Forces guys, and I've my athletes. I'm going to be serving for some Catholic priests as well. I'm doing a spiritual warfare course, and to see how as a Catholic myself, practicing Catholic, how interested the Vatican and the Catholic religion is about psychedelics, because they know it's the conduit to God.
Well, that's fascinating.
And there's mushroom iconography all over churches in Europe. And if you read books like The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, or the immortality key. It shows you chronologically where these were all in there, and people's different interpretations of it. Of course, some of it's kind of wild, but my friend that wrote that book with Leary and Rawson and Russ, he was a religious scholar that they all took under their wing, and helped write a book called The Road to Eleusis, which is the immortality key expands on it. Now there's a study at Harvard about it, but it shows how, Jesus was probably a mushroom shaman serving mushrooms, and that was the body of the body of Christ, and how chronologically, this king, this pope, this cardinal, whoever, have taken things and manipulated the message of Jesus and the religion, because that was the most powerful cult at the time. When Eleusis was a place where Romans would go or Greeks would go to ingest the koukion, which was a spiked punch or a spiked wine that had ergot fungus in it, which is LSD. So, and a bunch of other things too. But so these people went out there and they fried, and they invented the Western civilization and democracy, and they found how to manipulate the masses. So they took a very large cult, turned it into the religion it is today. And again, I don't know how much of this is true. I'm just reading you back what it says. This is all up to your own interpretation. But psychedelics have been the thing. That was the actual, instead of eating a cracker, we should be taking mushrooms, and because that's how you divine with God. And when you have men who, well, we printed this book in a language you can't understand, so we'll decipher it for you, and you can't take this thing, that will let you talk to God. Drink this wine that'll numb you, this other wine, with more alcohol in it. So I'll talk to God for you. Don't worry about it, because it's about power and money and influence and greed, and for some reason pedophilia. But that's every religion. That's all of them. If you study all the books, you realize they're all the same. It's all nonsense. I shouldn't say nonsense. It's all men's manipulation of it. And if you push the books aside, it's all the same God in my eyes. I work with Muslims. I work with Jews. I work with everyone I can, because fighters come in all shapes and sizes. And everyone deserves to heal, as long as you have something in the sky that you call God.
What would you say to somebody, kind of to wrap this up? I have two more questions. What would you say to somebody that's just in a dark spot and really wants to, has tried everything, like a lot of us have, and really wants to go down the road with healing through your method? Where would you tell somebody to start?
Do they have balls? Do they have good friends around? Like, it depends what sort of darkness, because if you've got psychological issues, you stay away from psychedelics. Yeah. I've seen people have psychotic breaks and jump out windows and shit. Yeah. So harm prevention is huge. But if it's someone who's, trying and keep failing, and they're really trying to get their shit together, and they maybe they're healthy in some regards, some others are not, but they're clear of certain traps. Even the addictions, this will help fix those. A hero dose is 5 grams. You don't have to do a hero dose. It shouldn't even be called a hero dose. I've taken 20 grams in the Mayan Yucatan, in the jungle with a very famous shaman's niece, and that was a hero dose. But 5 grams is a lot of mushrooms. So just take. That's a lot to recommend, but I would say just go for it. If you think you have a good support system, at least one friend you can talk to babysit you, go in a dark room, go in your bed, make it as dark as possible, put an eye shade on, okay? And, obviously write down your intentions, three intentions you have, 3 things you're grateful for, what do you forgive, what are you trying to go over in all this? And you have a mushroom playlist, not some emotional emo music that you listen to as a kid or something, makes you think about your ex-girlfriend, shamanistic type music. You can find it on all over the place. And you get comfortable, you lay down, you can, to make it easier onset, grind those mushrooms up, put it in some lemon juice and some pineapple juice, bromelain, and you have citric acid. So it'll start to convert it to psilocin quicker. Shoot it down. It won't last as long. It'll hit a little harder, but it won't last as long. And then you go through it. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna cry. You're gonna cry more. You're gonna deal with whatever needs to be dealt with first, because that's the first layer of trauma. That's the thing sitting on top of your muscles, that's making you act like an asshole or do dumb things or go back to addiction. And then we can peel that one off and get to the other stuff later. But if you can go through that, it's really hard for people to go back into negative behaviors.
Yeah.
If you can go somewhere and do it with people, it's a good idea too, with a facilitator if you can afford it. But I'm just saying, this is, mushrooms are cheap. Yeah. And you can go in your room and I'm sure you have Spotify on your phone, and have the journal out and journal. Read up on psychedelics, read up on healing, educate yourself a bit so you don't go into this blind. Yeah. Then you have some harm prevention skills to do some fighting with. You got to fight off those demons still, because that stuff's going to now be up in your face, and you can't be like, oh, I'm better now. Like, no, your visceral response was.
So this is all in combination with therapy and all that kind of stuff. It's so important to focus on the
talk therapy and have people you can talk to.
Right.
Not always a therapist. You don't have to pay someone to do this. Yeah. You can go talk to your friends. Yeah. You can go talk to your family, because people will talk to you. Yeah. Or if you are looking for this. If you don't have anybody, if your life sucks that much, and I'm fucking sorry, go look up a psychedelic meetup. Yeah. Go to one of those and just go to whoever's in charge and say, I'm having a real tough time, and I need some people that work in this space to help me through this journey, because I'm going to go through a journey and I don't know what to do. People will be so happy to help you. You're going to make new friends. Mm-hmm. They're going to walk you through it. They're going to be, here's my number, and go, I can babysit you, or once you're done, you can call me. Everyone's trying to be a coach. Everyone's trying to help out, and people need practice. And it's a really amazing community. The psychedelic community is beautiful. And yes, there's some weirdos. There's a lot of weirdos in it. But whatever. I'm weird. I don't know.
There's weirdos in every community.
Yeah, right. So just go check it out.
Yeah. All right. Last question. And I ask everybody this. And you kind of answered it a little bit, but just in general, what's your just main message to just somebody that's struggling overall, maybe having suicidal ideations in your world, just doesn't know what to do? What is your message for them, just in general, about where to turn and what their first step is?
Well, I remember my point where I literally pulled a gun out of my mouth and had to just look through everything. It's really, really hard. It's one of the hardest things you can do, ever. So if I can do it, you can do it. That's what I've always told people. I was at the highest highs, the lowest lows. I died before, and I think I harp on this too much about how shitty I was. Just how gross. I was just a fucked up person, but I wasn't really mean to people. I was a good human still, but it starts with something like neurolinguistics programming. What are the stories you're telling yourself, and what are the stories you're telling other people? Because that has a big impact. You have to reframe the things you say on people, the energies you put on them, the energy you put on yourself. Oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, this, oh, that, whatever. No. We got to stop doing that. You're better than that. You have to start looking at yourself in a better light. You can't look anywhere else for this, because no one can really help you. If they do, it doesn't stick like it should, or at all. Even if you're lucky, if it does, you weren't that bad off if it stuck. You need to hold yourself accountable and get outside, get some sunlight, breathe, work out. That's the greatest thing I can offer anybody. Go to the gym, or go for a run, whatever it is. Get a workout in, and then think about killing yourself, and then think about the bad shit in your life. It's going to be way better. You're going to be like, all right, well, I feel better now that my body created all these positive drugs, because we're a little drug factory. So, you have to put on some David Goggins, scream, yell, whatever it is. David Goggins put me through my sobriety and yelling at me. I hate running. Yeah. I would just run until I collapsed. Yeah. Oh man. So that's it. Be physical first, And the next decisions you make should be after that, because you'll be in more sound mind and body.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, man. Good to see you.
All right, cool.